How about Major League Baseball? We don't hit a lot of Major League Baseball. But I'm always in when we have our discussions on your TV watching or streaming habits and how much you attend games, what games you pick to go to, how much, college football, NFL, hoops and baseball you consume. And over the weekend, Joe Pompliano tweeted, Major League Baseball says yesterday, which was Saturday. Okay, he tweeted this yesterday, so that would have been Saturday. MLB says yesterday was the league's most well-attended Saturday in 8 years. Average crowd size was 38,000, and 8 games had crowds of 40-plus thousand. The games are quicker, more hits, runs, and stolen bases. And fans are loving it. I'd like to see some of the streaming numbers, TV numbers, knowing all of that. But that's good for MLB. Now, I love, y'all know I'm not watching MLB in June. However, I've gotten into the postseason between, I guess I started with the Red Sox and Schilling, and then definitely the Red Sox and Papelbon. And then when the Cubs won it, and then when the Braves won it a couple years ago. So throughout the 2000s, we've had some fun. There's some of them that don't interest me. Postseason ball is good. Now, it's right in the heart of football season. That's just a tough thing. But if you get it on like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even Thursday night, just depending, Friday night, you can lock in and go there. Jason, do you watch any MLB?
Basically not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much not at all. Now, you're talking about the faster games. That has given MLB more publicity just because some people will get mad seeing like a strike 3 on a timeout, like they're not in the box fast enough or pitcher's not ready fast enough. So that's the only time that I've seen MLB get more publicity was basically because of that. Like people get mad, like that shouldn't be a strike 3 or that, that shouldn't happen is what people are saying. So that kind of makes it more popular for the sport. Also in the ways that you mentioned, like, ticket sales and people actually staying and watching games.
Yeah, quicker, more action, all that. Out of bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, your SEC Insider hit this morning, is brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your car and home and save with your Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Favrates.com, F-A-V-E, favrates.com. Powered by Farm Bureau Insurance. Competitive, super competitive rates. An excellent customer service brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Twitter handle @BowBounds. Want to thank you for going to Apple Podcast and Spotify, searching Out of Bounds with Bow Bounds, going back and listening to the show. Also would love for you to hit subscribe. We're on YouTube right now. Our YouTube channel, search Out of Bounds Sports. YouTube, search Out of Bounds Sports. I had something else I saw over the weekend. Speaking of SEC football, we'll see if we get some nibbles on all the new 7A of MHSAA. Are you excited about that? Does it do anything for you? You look at the metro area, DeSoto County, and the coast, and it drives the whole thing. Got a couple of teams in the Hattiesburg area, Starkville and Oxford, and Tupelo and so on. But I saw this. Speaking of SEC football, and we've talked a lot about Vanderbilt and the fact that Ole Miss won't get Vanderbilt going forward every year. And what, Ole Miss has been given the gift of all gifts in SEC West football scheduling since 1992. I mean, they played the worst team in the league every year for 30 years. And not just the worst team, but the worst team by like a million miles, right? I mean, they don't care about it. They don't commit to it. There's high school stadiums in Texas that are much nicer than Vanderbilt's.
Yeah.
Right? And other than James Franklin and going in there for a couple years and winning a few games, Vanderbilt's been the doormat of the SEC for 100 years. And Ole Miss has feasted on that. You know, big chunk of their wins in the Southeastern Conference are beating the Vanderbilt Commodores. But starting next year, you know, Ole Miss doesn't draw Vanderbilt. And then they'll play, well, it's going to depend on which way we go. But you think you're going to have them every other year. Everybody's going to have them every other year. Okay? Kind of see how that looks. I saw this on Twitter. Each SEC team's last loss to Vanderbilt. Kind of crazy. So Ole Miss last lost to Vanderbilt in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi State, who doesn't play Vanderbilt often, right? I mean, they get them once or twice a decade, maybe. Mississippi State last lost to Vanderbilt in 2004. That would be the Slatanic and crew, Sylvester Crooms, first year as the coach at Mississippi State. They didn't believe in scoring. Vanderbilt took advantage. I think the game was 1-0. And now, when was the last time Bama lost to Vandy? They don't play Vandy much either.
Ooh, you want me to guess?
Yeah.
Just a wild guess. I'm going to say, I'll be generous towards Vandy. Let's go 96. Let's go 1996.
1984.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. 1984 was the last time Alabama lost to Vandy. And Jason, pull up that record, Alabama-Vandy in football. Now, last year, Florida and Kentucky lost to Vanderbilt. Okay? And then Vandy went winless in 2020 and 2021. Again, did Ole Miss draw the best schedule in the SEC West? By a million miles. They went 0 for 0 for. So, Jason, last year, Florida and Kentucky lost to Vandy. Then you go 2 years, and then you got Missouri in 2019 that lost to them. How about this? Georgia lost to them in 2016. Now, that's hard to do at Georgia. That was Kirby's first year. Can you believe Kirby Smart lost to Vanderbilt? What do you have as the overall record for Alabama and Vandy?
Now, that is, it's not surprising at all. 63 wins for Bama, 18 losses, and 4 ties.
And they haven't lost since 1984.
Right. And then
Okay.
before that, it was 69. So,
wow, that was actually when Coach Paul Bear Bryant was there. See, 84, Coach Bryant had, Ray Perkins was there, right? Yeah. So Coach Bryant stepped down after the, 82 season? Passed away shortly thereafter. Ray Perkins was named the head coach. Wasn't a fit. Can you believe he left the New York Giants? It's hard to fathom today, right? Because the NFL was it was big then. And I know it was Bama and Coach Paul Bear Bryant. He probably made the call and Of course, Ray Perkins with Mississippi roots, and we've had him on the show before. He passed away, I guess, a couple of years ago. But this may be hard for you to, wrap your brain around, Jason. Coach Paul Bear Bryant steps down, and Ray Perkins takes his place from the New York Giants. And who did that open the door for? It didn't work out for Coach Perkins. Look, man, 1958 to 1982, whatever it was, when Coach Paul Bear Bryant left Texas A&M and goes, as he said, Mama called. When Mama calls, home called, he had to go. And the rest is history for the University of Alabama and the Crimson Tide. But by Ray Perkins leaving the New York Football Giants, what did that do, Jason? It opened it up for Bill Parcells. And then what'd he do? He won 2 Super Bowls with the New York Football Giants. And he had Lawrence Taylor and some other really, really nice pieces. Ag Up Equipment text line, 601-885-3776. Then Alabama would go to Bill Curry. That didn't work out. I think one year he went 10-1, lost to Auburn. They threw a brick through his window in his house.
Jeez.
I know.
Jeez.
I know. I want to say it was like 88. It was, and then eventually that would play out. Curry just couldn't I mean, you got to be able to handle the pressure. You know, Dennis Franchione, he took the job and actually won, and the program was under serious turmoil when he did it, and he couldn't handle it. He actually left Bama to take the A&M job in the 2000s. People forget that. Through all the Albert Means and DuBose and you know, making a terrible hire with Mike Shula, Dennis Franchione actually won and then got out of there because he the rumors are he and his wife couldn't handle it. Because, I mean, you're scrutinized. You're under a microscope when you go out to dinner, when you go try to put gas in your car, when I've always thrown this out. Can you imagine Nick Saban stopping at an Exxon or a Chevron on the way into work and pumping gas into his Mercedes? Now, I know he has a driver, but I've read there have been a few times where he's, you know, driven himself. I know he's got to sit in the back because he can't lose 1 second of time to work, right? So he's got to be calling a recruit or drawing up a play or whatever you're doing. But there has to have been a time where he's driving around Tuscaloosa in the last, once he got up and running and won a title or two. Can you imagine if he walked in a service station to get a bottle of water?
Ooh.
I don't think probably hasn't done that in a while. Maybe, but I wouldn't think so. But I would think he's had to fill up his car. And then my question would be, when was the last time Nick Saban had to fill up his car? I mean, again, I know he's got to drive, but I think there's sometimes, you know, mornings, afternoons, some off season, hey, I'm going to jump in the car and go somewhere without that driver that driver's got to sleep, I think, and at least take a week or so off.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Look,
right now coaches are off, so I don't know what Saban's doing. I guess he's over at the lake house in Georgia. You know, Kiffin's down in South Florida. Arnett's at the beach. Breeze is somewhere, hopefully in the right place. Kidding. Jimbo Fisher's on his ranch, as he's told us about, I guess, outside of College Station. Good morning. Welcome in. We were talking about SEC team's last loss to Vanderbilt. And Alabama is now the one team that hasn't lost to them, but they haven't played them that much. And you can look this up, Jason. A&M's never lost to them. But I don't know how many times, you know, A&M's only been in for what, 12 years? And they may have only played Vandy once or twice. And now maybe they played non-conference prior to that. 2-0?
Yeah, 2-0.
2-0.
A home blowout win in 2013
okay.
and a road shutout win in Nashville in 2015.
Both those, Kevin Sumlin. Okay. All right.
But it's funny, you mentioned Ole Miss's last loss, 2018. I was at that game in Nashville, covering the game on the field. And you would have thought, it was like when Vanderbilt won, it just sounded like Ole Miss losing. It was just quiet. Nobody cared. It was at the last play, into the game, as exciting as it could be. And Vanderbilt fans just like a nice golf clap, and you head home. I mean, they couldn't care less, I don't think.
It's quiet. Look, oh goodness. This guy didn't understand the question I asked earlier about the coach that's coached the best three players on one team at one time. So what I asked earlier, college football coach that's coached the best trio of players at the same time, like on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
Miami Hurricanes. Would it be LSU with Burrow, Chase, and Jefferson? You mentioned Urban. You know, I guess if you go college football, those Florida teams were decorated with, you know, Tebow, Pouncey twins, Percy Harvin, Hernandez, although people don't like to throw out that name. At Ohio State, what would be the best trio that he had at Ohio State? Was Zeke in that group? I mean, it's not Cardell Jones. I know Cardell they plugged him in. They had other great players, especially, offense and defense. But definitely defensive side of the football. And, you know, Barry Switzer, good grief. That Oklahoma run from about 74, 75 to 88, he had some absolute dudes too. But it may be Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson as far as a coach that has coached the best trio of players, college football coach, past or present. Obviously, Ed Ogeron's not currently coaching. Will he coach again? We'll see. We'll see. But I was thinking about that this morning. You know, somebody mentioned Auburn. I mean, that was a nice group of Cadillac Williams, Ronnie Brown, and Jason Campbell, but nothing compared to Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson. Now, you could go with some Bama. I mean, Bama had some runs of trios of players the last 14 years during Saban's run that was, without question, super impressive. Just wondering which trio really jumped out at you and could trump Burrow. You know, Cam didn't have any guys that went on to play in the NFL on the offensive side of the football for Auburn. None of his wide receivers caught a pass in the NFL. That's remarkable. I mean, it was Cam and just a bunch of nice players. And that's how good he was. I mean, he had nothing close to Devontae Smith and Waddle. Or way back when, you know, McElroy and McCarron could just hand it off to all the two-headed monsters at the running back position that Alabama had. Like Ingram and Richardson. And then you just go on and on and on as far as what Bama did during all the way up to, you know, Derrick Henry and so on. Live in the BankPlus Studio, Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your car and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Ole Miss, again, they'll play Vanderbilt this year, and then they'll lose the mighty Commodores as far as every year starting in 2024 because neither Mississippi State nor Ole Miss drew Vanderbilt in the new schedule with Texas and Oklahoma when we added them in. Mississippi State drew at Texas. Ole Miss will host Oklahoma, and then they'll, you know, do a little switcheroo there.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Well, I was wondering your opinion on who is the best trio from a Mississippi school.
You know, Hugh Freeze in 14 and 15. Would you go Chad Kelly, Laquan Treadwell, and Evan Ingram? Because the talent and star power with those guys, there were not many secondaries, Jason, that could slow them down. It's kind of hard to believe that they did lose in 2015 to Memphis and Florida and Arkansas. Because they had big wins against Bama and Auburn and LSU and Mississippi State and eventually in 15 would go to the Sugar Bowl. I mean, they played a very mediocre Oklahoma State team. But that's just how bowls go this day and age. It's not like when you pulled the sugar in 73 and you were going to get Bama and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But I would go Chad Kelly, Laquan Treadwell, and Evan Ingram.
I think I might switch out Chad Kelly for Laramie Tunzel. I think I might put, because Laramie, he was was supposed to be the number 1 overall draft pick. We all know how that turned out. But and then
he was the best left tackle in the history of the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
Kyle, I mean, he's gone on to have a really good pro career. Just signed another monster contract. He's just getting paid and getting paid and getting paid at a position premium, like QB, like Dak getting $270 million, whatever.
Yeah.
Edge rushers, and interior defensive linemen. It's why Chris Jones and Jeffrey Simmons they're going to be over $100 million, then have a chance to go over $200 million, which is, as far as career, just on the field earnings. I see where you're going. It's hard for me to boot the QB.
Yeah.
And it's, if Chad probably takes care of himself, I think he makes it in the NFL. And if you hang around long enough, a lot of times the guy around you gets hurt and you play. But, what do you go from the Colts to the Broncos?
Yeah,
I think
Colts, Broncos, and then I think he had like one more, like maybe training camp stop before he was out of the league. But
okay.
Now he's actually one of the top Canadian League quarterbacks.
So he played that one game, right? He got inserted into the last game for the Grey Cup, and they won it?
Yes, and then now he's the starting QB.
Okay, so last year he played like one game and change, and they won it. And now we need to check out what he's doing. But you're right on Tunzel. Now for Mississippi State, what direction would you go? I'm thinking there. Dak, Chris Jones, who would be the third off that 14 team or 15? Well, who am I missing here? Because some people are saying Jeffrey Simmons, Montez Sweat, and Jonathan Abram. I think you got to find a little more juice than that. I mean, there's 3 phenomenal players. Obviously, Jeffrey could put himself in position to be in the Hall of Fame. So I get it. I mean, when you don't just throw out Laramie Tunsil's trying to put himself in position to be, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And Fletcher Cox is borderline. I don't know if he's going to play quite long enough, but he is coming back for the Eagles. And then Chris Jones is over there with the Kansas City Chiefs with 2 Super Bowl rings. If Jones has another, 3 years of high-level play, what does that look like as far as the Pro Football Hall of Fame for Chris Jones? Right? The Out of Bounds Show is powered by Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. MississippiSportsMedicine.com. Any age, any sport, any injury, they've got you covered. Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. Good morning. Welcome in. The SEC Insider Hit brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your car and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Steve Robertson, 830.